Your shoulder. That's lovely, thank you.
The Park Inn. One ought to say that actually it's on the agenda of any tour of Malcolm's Northampton, because as I'm sure a lot of you know, Malcolm spent 4 days in the Park Inn, except it was called the Saxon Inn then. Those of you who know the story well know that he got thrown out of the pub where he was staying with Brian Charlton, having fallen out with Brian Charlton and Mary, and he found his way to the club, which is still there, the Cheney Walk Club, where he was very happy, and I think he knew people. And there, luckily enough, he met the chairman of the Cheney Walk Club, a man called John Hollis, whom Paul and I chatted to when we were doing the book a few years back. And John obviously felt the first thing that he needed was somewhere to stay, and fixed him up at the Saxon Inn. So the Saxon Inn is actually quite a significant place to start our pilgrimage. Dungate itself was a leather factory, so that if you look up at the top, you've got the date there. Can't see it, 1902, but it was, and certainly the Arnold firms would have dealt with that factory. Was definitely. There's another to our right as we go down here, just on the. It's the front of the old Barrett factory, Barrett Shoes. But Barrett's went out of business about 10 years ago. But obviously it's a bit of a detour. It's on a road leading out of the town. But we thought it made a very good start, because really the Malcolm Arnold story in Northampton is all to do with shoes. And I was trying to account for his personality and his genius and all the various different strands to his character. I think you can, Northampton and his background here, but must be deeply significant. It probably hasn't been properly explored. The World War is going to boost his factory enormously, and he's about to move into the Barrett League. And so what I thought it'd be quite good if we started looking at what the Barrett League was. We see this building put up in 1913 when Pappy was a young, ambitious man, and he would have really taken this on board. This is the sort of thing to which a successful shoe manufacturer can aspire. So page on it of Malcolm's houses, and there's a lovely picture of his sister Ruth with a cat, and a bit of Fairview behind, and that's the house into which Will and the family moved when he was very successful in 1917, and this is the house where Malcolm was born, Fairview. Of course, it's a really attractive road. Here we are, on the right. I don't know whether we're going to stop, it depends on the traffic parked. But again, we've got to go back in time 90 years, just imagine, what are we, 2000, 100 years nearly. And there is this amazing foot-shaped bootworks on the right. You can see the look at you can see the door, entrance door. It's quite most wonderfully elaborate, and that's wonderful. It's called foot-shaped because Barrett had this idea of actually every customer's foot was traced out, and so they called it foot-shape. It was a new gimmick. They also had a mail order. They made their money through mail order. Behind the factory, there was a huge, great factory, one-floor factory extending right back, which got burnt, had a fire, and they've knocked it down. So you're Now to see Craigmore, you really want to look at the picture of it so you know what you're looking for. So if you look at Malcolm's homes, bottom picture, and there is Craigmore at the bottom. You can see it's the first, you can see how it ends, it's the end of a terrace. It's going to be up here on the left, immediate left. These houses didn't exist. It was all open ground until you got to Craigmore. And you can just see the end of it. You can see the red brick by the chimney. You can see how clearly the builders were going to build on and didn't. And this is the house we feel that there really should be a plaque. Maybe it could be a feature for next year's festival or something. That here we are, and Malcolm had Nan got him a lovely room in the attic so that he could compose by himself in quiet. And this was very much, here we go, you can just see where the basement was at the bottom. 106. It used to have Craigmore on the glass above the top. Lots of well-known photographs of the family standing outside in front of it. And you can see what a lovely view it was and how gorgeous. Apart from during the war when the artillery took over the racecourse, and apparently there was a gun facing straight at Craigmore, which worried Pappy enormously. Kingsley Road we're coming up to. We're going to turn right, and you can see some rather lovely, though looking a bit tired, houses just to our right there. And one of them was, I think it was number 26, was where Grandfather William used to live. And the stories go that if the two of them saw each other on the racecourse, then they would immediately change direction so that they didn't actually no, which is Grandfather William's left, and almost immediately we get a Methodist chapel where dear old Pappy used to preach. So you've got the pub on the one side, and then next to it, well, we must be coming up now. Here we go, right on the left. Here it is, this lovely number 26. You can see this extraordinary porch. Once upon a time, absolutely gorgeous, with the Corinthian capitals over the pillars. It's sort of extraordinary Gothic, little Gothic pillars. Once upon a time, a wonderful house where they called him the old. What do they call him? The old. It wasn't a very complimentary word. He apparently sort of ruled there with considerable aplomb. So the white elephant on the left. Malcolm went to school. We'll be passing it later on at Eaglehurst, which is down to the right. It's the road to the right. East Park Parade. But that was when he was at Fairview, so he didn't in fact cross the racecourse to school. He used to have the family chauffeur take him from Fairview, Cliftonville, which is over there, to Eaglehurst. And apparently he used to bribe the chauffeur to stop at the sweet shop and, en route. It's being very poetic herself. Sorry, it's bang next door to Pappy's favourite chapel. Pappy preached in all the Methodist chapels in the area, and was apparently a very powerful preacher. And then here we have St Matthew's Church. We're hoping that we can get out here somewhere.
Knees, where everybody's touched her over the years, and Graham Sutherland's Crucifixion from 1946, this is 1944. We discovered both our pieces have been out of the church in my tenure. I've been the vicar here for 4 years. We discovered that they come apart unintentionally. And in this one there is a time capsule, and there were paper cuttings of Benjamin Britten and Ian Clark and the sculptor standing there watching the Madonna being winched into place. And when this came apart, a few weeks after I became the incumbent, they put a cutting of my institution's service in it, so it's my only claim to fame. But somebody might think, well, who's this guy in a few hundred years' time, because my picture's inside.
Passing it at the far end from the photograph. Bottom of page 2. Sorry, there we are. Yes, we just passed it. It's on the left. It's got the blue ironwork. Both the houses together. That was Eaglehurst College.
What was Eaglehurst?
The one with the blue.
Yeah.
You got it?
I think so.
On the left or right, as they were the workmen, so they'd all be working in the factory. And then the next one down,
Henry Street.
Talbot Road, what you want to twist left, and you'll see a lovely preserved factory that is now some rather fine flats. And then the music centre here in fact. But do have a look on the left. It's a lovely tall factory. That was sort of probably the summit of Pappy's business when he acquired that. It's a wonderful, wonderful building. And this is where Malcolm took the youth orchestra. And it does seem possible that, given the fact that they've got a very flourishing music centre for young people there, the conversion of one of those Arnold factories into an adjunct to the music centre would seem possible, because they're so very close. Now, right, we're coming up to a wonderful primitive Methodist chapel that, again, Grandfather William worshipped at regularly, and he was converted by the people here, 1879. So it was a young place, lovely building, and he was so fond of it that he actually put it in his privately printed memoirs as the photograph of this particular chapel, so with the preachers who meant so much to him. Grandfather William rose from nothing. He was born in a village 12 miles outside Northampton. His father made shoes at home, 6 pairs a week, which he then walked into Daventry, or Daintree, or whatever they call it, Daventry, to, he was sort of employed by a great firm in Daventry, and he sat at home in a little room and made shoes all week, and then he walked with them and delivered them by himself. Right, but it's, William himself left Everton, which was the name of the village, at the age of 15, and came to Northampton. Seems to have been taken under the wing of an uncle who was working for Manfields, and it was in fact this uncle and Grandfather William who joined up together about 12 years later, when he'd learnt his trade, who started the first firm. Their first firm was literally one room up a lot of steps in near Louise Road that we saw right at the beginning of the trip. They then moved to a converted house, just the first floor of a converted house. Apart from Cliftonville, there's also another school that Malcolm went to. In fact, we're going to see two schools. One was a dame school run by a couple of sisters called the Strickland sisters, and we think he gave them a pretty tough time, probably. He didn't last very long. Now do look at the house on the right, because that's where Barrett lived. The great William Barrett lived in this house on the right, Beaumont Villa. And the Churches lived at 9 Springs on the left. You can see what wonderful, wonderful houses they once were. Beaumont on the right, Barrett's. And then this house, which is now very down at heel, it's called Beaumont House, but it was called Straser. And this was owned by the great Phipps family. And if you imagine it, sort of 90 years ago, in the 1920s, when it was properly cared for, it was a wonderful, probably the Phippses were the biggest fish in this particular pond. And Malcolm was just round the road. There was another, Spring Hill here was another house that he would have known very well. And also this house here, which in fact has a front entrance facing the hospital, doesn't do it justice. It's another big, big house. The Churches had lived in it at one time. It had huge grounds, so you can't really, if you just see it around the corner, you can begin to see how big it was. This wasn't here at all. There were just three houses on this side of the road, one of which was the Arnold House, Fairview. So you've got to imagine none of that hospital extension absolutely wasn't there. And you can now see a little bit of the Nene Valley, some idea of the view that they had from their garden. They had this lovely tennis court, various other glorious. It's a wonderful place. Malcolm was born here, and I think he was 13 when they moved to St George's Avenue, so his formative years were here. If you look at the houses on the left, it's really rather better because you get an idea of who his neighbours were. Malcolm, as a little boy, would have walked past this lovely house, the Lindens. He's known it very well. And the house next door was in fact a school, a very exclusive school for deaf children, run by a pioneer, which he would have known. And then again, this lovely house here also was there, and I think there's a little bit further up, I think all these houses apart from the last one date to his time. So if one walks along Cliftonville without looking at the car park, ignoring the car park, then one can get a feeling for it as it was when they lived here. Pappy actually put up, or had put up, a thing saying Fairview was here where the composer Malcolm Arnold was born, because he was very proud of him. And that's gone, because I've walked this road many times looking for it, and it just ain't there. So, again, another alternative to having a plaque on Craigmore, which I think would be really nice, would be to have something. We don't quite know where Fairview is, and one's consulted all sorts of records and school. It's now I just think Northampton School for Boys. And they're very proud of Malcolm. They have a prize in his name, and when we were in touch with him, we got very positive vibes from the headmaster there, which was very nice.
Very, very good bands as well.
Very, very good bands, apparently.
Brilliant music.
Very, very fine. Just the schools. But anyway, for 2 years he was here. He gave up all school at 13. I think was never really got to the bottom of it. How he managed to get away with doing no school after 13, but he didn't, and that's where his sister Ruth comes into the story so much, because she was also at Craigmore. They just moved to Craigmore. Malcolm was 13 and decided that he didn't want to do any more schooling, and he started off his married life in 1907 when he married Nan. But I think the first place we pass is the Crown and Cushion on the left. Here it is, right ahead of us. Quite a small pub. You can see the upstairs rooms. And not very far from St Andrews. In fact, this is a road parallel to the Billing Road. So in fact, it's all very close together. The grammar school is right at the back. Cliftonville not far away. So there we are, that's the Crown and Cushion. To the right, very interestingly for him, is where his father lived. I mean, it must have been a very odd feeling. But here I think we come to Stimpson Avenue, and up there on the left, there's a picture in the pamphlet, up there on the left was where his father lived his early married life. We're talking about Edmund Rubra and Bostock Avenue. is a Rubra road, and I think his father Rubra's father lived in Bostock Avenue, who was a watchmender, I think. And again, talking of future festivals and development of the whole Northampton thing, the fact that there are two other very well-known composers, William Alwyn and Edmund Rubra, born in Northampton. There's a lovely photograph of Malcolm speaking to them both at a function which Ruth wrote up for the local paper, in fact. And there's obviously tremendous potential for